Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, a very, very busy day yesterday and today.
It was. Why was it busy for you yesterday?
Well, I had the first college orientation I've been to in probably 30 plus years. Yesterday was
for AJ.
Yeah, yesterday was an enrollment, and then they had their first practice. He obviously didn't participate, but he got to see the first practice, spring practice, football practice in pads yesterday.
And he hasn't seen many football practices in pads, period, has he?
No, he hasn't. So it was very interesting. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really liked the coaching staff.
Are you going to be an empty nester?
Soon to be, yeah.
How do you think you're gonna mentally handle that?
Dude, it's all good. I have a plan. You know me. I have a plan for everything. So it was very, very cool seeing and
is that Boyd?
Yeah, we'll get to him in a minute.
Boyd Duckett's our guest today, live
yeah, we're
via
gonna have
Skype.
Boyd on. And then we have all kinds of stuff to follow up on. I have, and let me say this, Matthew. I was thoroughly impressed by the fan participation. Remember on the last show, I said, hey, if you guys have an opinion, send me an email to mark@bassown.com about this whole classic TV show. And I got bombarded.
And if you didn't watch the last replay, we had a healthy discussion. It wasn't even an argument. I guess it was kind of an argument because we're on different sides of the fence on it. As far as to whether the classic show that runs on ESPN2 on Easter morning was should have been
good point.
Produced as though everybody knows that Jordan Lee won the Classic and he's in studio and all the guys can talk about it, or whether it should be done as it was done, which was a kind of like no one knew what was going to happen, like it was playing out during the TV show. Yeah.
So I will say this, about 50-50, dude. About half agreed with me, about half agreed with you. I don't know. There might have been one or two that...
Well, that's a win for you then if it's 50-50, because most,
well, some of the
usually
comments...
it's about 95-5 me.
I'm actually going to read some of these real quick.
Okay, so these are viewer...
Yeah, some of them put what state they were from, others didn't. This is from Brian in Philadelphia. It says, Mark, diehard fans watch Bass Live. Let ESPN show it for the casual fan. The key is to treat ESPN, the ESPN show, as a marketing product to bring people in. Simple as that.
That sounds like he's on my side there.
He is.
Okay.
All right, he is. All right, here's another one. This is from Matt.
It's not me. It's not me. I'm not.
No. I'm trying to see where he's from. He did not put where he was from on this one. He did send it from his iPhone, though. It says, I watch the reruns on YouTube time and again, watch movies over there, blah, blah. Yes, it should be on TV. I would watch it time and time again. You learn so much from these videos. Bass Track is huge, but in no way do the majority of people watch this just for who wins. I totally agree with Matt on this. I appreciate you guys. Love the podcast. Matt, and it wasn't you.
Okay.
All right. So, hey, I'm going to respond to a lot of these.
And you're saving all your emails for the closer, so it sounds better. I notice how you put my stuff first. You get the last at bat, you do push the buttons, so you can kind of.
All right. So this is from Chris Thompson in New York. It says, Mark, you are correct on this one. I think a different TV show would bring more value to the sponsors, anglers, and fans from an entertainment perspective. It's not just the hardcore fans that know who won the Classic. If you're in bass fishing, you know who won the Classic. If you don't, then you're not a true fan. I never really thought about that. If you're a true fan of the game, are you going to know who won the Classic?
Oh, absolutely.
So his point, once again, is a great point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I never really thought about that. All right. And then the second one is, this is Dan Stevens from Florida. Says, Mark, I agree with you 100%. The fact that the show is somewhat staged due to the host knowing what the outcome is kind of funny. It says, I believe most of the TV viewers know what the outcome is and DVR the show due to the time slot. But I do see Matt's points, but I agree with you, Mark. It's time to change.
Okay, fair enough. I can handle that.
So it was about 50-50, dude. And really, really appreciate the response on that. So any thoughts on their comments?
No, I mean, there's not a right answer to this, I don't feel.
No.
I don't feel like there is.
No.
I mean, every way, I mean, everybody's would do it differently if they were, I guess, the head editor of that show. So we have what we have, and it's, I mean, you forget how much material and content that those guys over at JM have to go through.
Oh, a ton.
To get a product within a week after the tournament is over.
Yeah.
And then you talk about the hosts with Sanders or with Zona and Davey Height and all that in studio. There are a lot of working elements and pieces and hours and hours and hours of footage, and you have to develop the storylines, and I mean, there's a million different directions you can go with it.
Very important statement on the instant feedback from Kevin, and he says, I don't think that's the case. I've fished with a lot of older guys in their 50s and 60s, and they don't follow the elites or the FLW. I agree with that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you're a fan
of the Elite Series or FLW Tour, you know that Justin Atkins won the Forrest Wood Cup, and you know that Jordan Lee won the Bassmaster Classic.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, you could be a fan, and you might not know exactly how it went down because you had other things going on, but if you are a fan, you know who won that, because a fan doesn't miss that.
Exactly. That's the point I was trying to make. Now, are there people out there that bass fish that have no idea who won the Classic?
Millions.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're saying. What we're really trying to pound the point into is most of the people that are not fans of the Elite Series have no interest in who won the Classic and could care less.
Right, which kind of makes my point. Because then wouldn't you rather see them watch something that they could get invested in and go, I want to see who wins this?
That's
even though
fine.
they don't
I understand
care
that. But what I'm saying is the vast majority of fans already know what happened.
I'm 100% with you.
So maybe there could be some kind of, not manipulation, but some type of something that showcases what they're trying to accomplish, but at the same time, it's like, all right, guys, we know who won. Here, we're going to present it like this. Maybe a combination of both. So, all good stuff.
Did you forget your pen? Were you writing in a hot pink Sharpie? Got the Kevin Short Sharpie going on.
You lost my highlighter. I cannot find my highlighter anywhere. You lose everything all the time. Lens caps.
Well, here, I've got a purple pen for you. That one's yours. Here's a blue pen. Oh, look, here's another pair of your glasses right there.
I have these all over the studio.
Here's a couple of
all right, here. I want to get on another subject, and we're going to go to Boyd here
I do
in
have
about
a lot of crap on my side of the studio.
5-10 minutes, and I have no idea. This is really interesting. This is just something to ponder for a future show. I was intrigued by this story because I had no idea, and I want your thoughts just very, very quick. We're not going to go in depth. We will in a future show. But this is a story that was in the Bleacher Report. You ever read
Absolutely. I read Bleacher Report, Deadspin, the whole 9 yards.
All right. And this is about some of the stuff that NFL teams are doing to capture information. Because obviously with all of this fallout with the whole Facebook thing, and now they're saying that there's 87 million people whose information has been captured, and Facebook was utilizing this to pass on to other companies, and people are leaving Facebook in droves now. Anyway, so I'm going to read a couple paragraphs on here and think about how this information would work or might help somebody that's out on tour, or even the weekend guy that's fishing weekend tournaments all the time. All right, it says, since 2015, every player in the National Football League has been part cyborg. Well, kind of. Embedded in their shoulder pads is an RFID chip that can measure speed, distance traveled, acceleration, deacceleration, and those chips broadcast movement information accurate within 6 inches to electronic receivers in every stadium. Every ball carries a chip. Did you know this?
No.
I had no idea. It says, so far the data has stayed within the walls of each individual team, helping players and coaches understand the offensive and defensive patterns. But this week, the NFL's competition committee made good on its intention to share the data of all 22 players after every game with all teams.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's crazy.
I mean, both of us are documented on all that too.
Yeah.
Did you know we are?
What?
Like currently? Like today? Just with your phone. I didn't even know this.
Oh,
you
I
can
had
go
no
on
idea.
your phone. So like today I've walked 0.33 miles and I've taken 792 steps.
I had no idea.
Is that not crazy?
That's
pretty, on
pretty,
everybody's
That's kind of
phone.
spooky.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I went to the zoo a couple weeks ago and I was like, I wonder how far I walked.
Let me keep going. All right, that last paragraph
Yes.
is enormous. I had no idea about that. It says the move will give competitors a greater understanding of player movements across the league, but it could also begin to change the essence of the game. Much of the challenge of sports is the ability to quickly process and react to information. A gift to great coaches and players. By stripping away some of the uncertainty of competition, data will shift to those that hold the analytical advantage and introduce some new ethical questions about the game. What does that sound like? Can you compare that to fishing? Dude, it is obvious.
The cast and...
No. Listen. Do you understand what they're doing?
You got to explain this to me, Mark.
Okay.
You lost me. I thought I did, but I think I'm on the wrong track.
Let me read the one paragraph.
Okay.
It's very short. It says, so far, the data has stayed within the walls of each individual team.
Meaning all this stuff.
All the data that's collected on all the players, be it from the information from the ball and the chips that are inside their shoulder pads, all stayed within the team.
As far as like how many times they get hit,
all right,
how far
so here,
they run, everything.
All kinds of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to compare that to fishing. Just that statement right there. Think about everything that a guy does on the water without a camera with him or on Bassmaster Live.
Right.
They don't know. People don't know. But now you throw the camera in there and you throw all this information that's being sent out from a live perspective. Everybody in the playing field knows what's going on. That's what they're doing this. For years, this information was kept within the organization.
Yeah, but I don't understand. How does that help other teams?
Now, what's going to happen is now all the data that is collected that was kept in-house is now going to be distributed to all 22 teams.
But if all 22 teams have their own data, why does it matter?
They're getting data from the other teams.
But I don't understand how that would give them an advantage.
If you do not, what are you saying? Are you kidding me? You don't understand by having data of who, or data and information on the team that you're going up against on Sunday would not give you an advantage if you didn't have that information?
Like what type of data, though?
Dude, I have no idea. This is the first that I've heard about this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously any information is going to help you.
But now, what information was kept in-house for those organizations to become better based upon the data that they're collecting from this information that was coming from the chips inside the shoulder pads and inside the ball. Whatever analytical equations or analysis takes place, now that information is not going to be kept in-house. Now the league has made a decision that information must be shared.
So if there are teams who have certain data that is skewed and this team is succeeding, the rest of the league can go, okay, why is this possibly why they're winning?
I'm going to give you an example. All right, let's say the wide receivers out of 120 routes ran, 75 of them all went across the middle in some capacity.
I got you. So it would be like if you had that data on all of fishing and you could look at Kevin Van Dam and everybody else could and go, well, Kevin is making 43% more casts.
Yes.
And they're going 18% longer. So I need to make more casts, or I need to make sure my casts are longer, or this angler is running 38% further than the average field in a course of a tournament day.
Right. Now,
I see what you're saying.
I'm not talking about putting chips in anglers.
I know what you're
like
saying,
that.
but I see what you're saying as far as
that competitive advantage that has been gained due to all the research and all the work that has went in crunching and producing all of this data is now being distributed to all 22 teams.
Here's an example that came to my head. Greg Hackney, one of the best flippers in town, right? Let's say Greg Hackney has kept his own data, and he knows that he averages 3.8 flips a minute, or let's say 20 flips a minute, right? And that's when he's the most productive. Well, everyone else was averaging like 8 flips a minute. Well, if you could see that, then you could look at Greg Hackney's data and go, well, Greg Hackney is getting more bites because more of the fish are hitting it on the drop. So I need to spend less time with my bait in the water and more time making more targets because look how efficient it is for Greg Hackney. Now, obviously, you're taking a lot of things into consideration here as far as fishing location and stuff like that, because it doesn't matter how many flips you take if there's no fish in there. But if that part of the playing field is level, you can learn and get an advantage from other anglers based on their statistics.
You could do that.
Is that what you're saying? Am I somewhat on the same page?
Somewhat on that, but what I'm saying is
elementary understanding.
The understanding of what took place prior to live, prior to all the information.
So you're saying live is almost acting like all this data, because now all the other anglers are going, I didn't have any idea what anyone else did because everyone else was their individual team. And now it's all public.
Yes.
So now you know that Jordan Lee spent 2 hours skipping that worm around boat docks before he got bit, whereas I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying?
You're basically giving away all of your team information through the live broadcast to the competitors.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
I see what you're saying. There's a number of different ways you could look at that. You could take it to analytical. You could take it to visual.
Yeah. Are we at the point where
we've
guys
had
are
talks,
ever going to have
we've
chips
had
in
talks with I know I've talked with like Hunter Shryock about it, and Brandon Polinick has talked about it. The more they're on film, the more they film all this stuff every single day on the water, and they go back and say, well, why was I losing these fish, or why was I getting bit in this area? And in the heat of the moment, you don't realize it. Well, when you go back and you edit all your own stuff, you're basically watching the game footage and going, oh, look, I did a hitch before my hook set, or I lost a fish and then my hook set changed after that. Or, look, I was skipping it underneath the overhangs every time I got bit and didn't realize it. And, you're basically analyzing your own data.
The last paragraph I'm going to read from this story, and this was a great, great read. Super long, though. It was about 4 pages. All right. This kind of goes back to what Mr. Blockett said on our last show about the whole technology thing and locators. All right. And this is a quote. In sports, we want talent, dedication, and effort to be the difference makers. So how much do we want technology to decide the outcomes of the games? Asked Thomas Murray, president of the Hastings Center for Prominent Ethics Research, blah, blah, blah. Quote, taking the human element out of the game, making it a competition amongst scientists rather than athletes doesn't seem to undermine what we value in sports, says Murray, who wrote about the ethics of performance enhancement in his book, Good Sport. So do you see the point that he's trying to make? Mm-hmm. All right, think about what Blockett said on Tuesday about all the technology that has changed the way that the advantages have been placed in this game and the advancement of how much easier it is to catch fish. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, dude's got a great point.
It's a good, there is a parallel there.
Yeah.
And, well, there was that, I mean, you can look at it one of two ways. I mean, as long as there's a competition, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, but just what they were doing in the 80s was super technologically advanced. There was that comment on the instant feedback that was like, why don't we just go out in a canoe and scull along and fish because the trolling motor was a competitive advantage.
Hey, some people are saying on the instant feedback, eventually somebody will just have a chip in their arm when they're making cast, and they will capture all that data and then download it to their 4 graphs that are on their dash.
Well, I have that deal that you can hook on your rod. Remember we had that dude on who was talking about that app?
Yeah.
And it captures all of that data.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a little clumsy.
Yeah. So are we, and the point of all that.
It makes you think.
It's a great article.
Mm-hmm. What was that if people wanted to go read it?
On the Bleacher Report.
On Bleacher Report.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, I think. Okay. 2 or 3 days ago. So it kind of fell in line with what we talked about with Blockett, but at the same time,
it's a lot. It kind of makes you kind of want to drink, doesn't it?
kind
of drives you to.
Speaking of drinking, Bass made the announcement that I had never heard of this. This must be a northern whiskey.
Yeah, they're based out of New York.
Okay. Have you ever taste of this? We're talking about Black Velvet.
That was my nickname in high school, but I've not had the whiskey.
Really? Black Velvet? I had no idea, man. So sponsorship, once again, headed back on track with the alcohol perspective. So
those northern events, they really love a stiff drink at a weigh-in. You put lacrosse in the mix and this, I mean...
They're going to sponsor the St. Lawrence River event.
It's always at casinos and drinking establishments whenever we go up north.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, we're gonna get Boyd on here in a minute. This whole thing about some of the responses that were set into, it got me thinking about this whole YouTube thing. All right, you know, people saying that they go back and they watch YouTube videos, and if they would put it. So, any idea how many subscribers Bassmaster has on YouTube?
Yeah, well,
you can read it.
You're pointing to it on.
It's 68,000, which I thought it would be a lot more than that. I mean, with 500,000 membership, I mean that's less
almost,
than less than
15% of the membership.
Yeah, not very many, and obviously the demographics of the membership may not be inclined to be a part of YouTube. Obviously, it's younger generation.
But also, I mean, you're also looking at subscribers. There's also a lot of people who look at that and don't subscribe.
Good point.
A ton.
Good point.
Because I probably didn't even figure out how to subscribe to YouTube channels until a couple years ago.
Good point. That's a great point. So the thing that I was looking at and the thing that I started thinking about once I got that email back from, I forget who it was, whoever mentioned the YouTube stuff, I started looking into the top YouTubers. And one of them is Dude Perfect, obviously, if you've ever seen these dudes.
Just not in fishing, just in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To see how much money that they were making from YouTube. The estimated amount of revenue that Dude Perfect made in 2017 was in excess of $16 million. It's a lot of money. But they also have like 24 million subscribers.
How much are we making off each episode of BTL that's on
dude,
YouTube?
We've only been doing this for a couple of months, so maybe a nickel.
That's way overestimated.
Maybe
Mark.
a nickel.
Way overestimated.
I don't think we're making a dime. So it got me thinking. And I want to get Boyd's take on this when we get him on here, but I'm going to throw it out there to you to think about. This could be an opportunity for Bass to make a move to do their live streaming via YouTube and actually start a partnership or attempt to at least get a partnership with YouTube Red. Are you familiar with what YouTube Red is?
Yeah, it's like a commercial-free streaming.
Yeah. And then they would actually get part of that, or they would be able to do non-commercials during their live streaming, all right, but then do revenue share with YouTube to where, think about it, if they could increase their membership, and I did a little math, if they could increase their membership to 1 million people, if they could double their membership, all right, that would generate an estimated $4 million in additional revenue that they could actually put that back into the prize fund and actually increase the prize fund. Also, they could do a revenue share from YouTube Red and really push their streaming platform strictly toward YouTube and partner with YouTube. Now you've created a revenue stream that they never had before, and they are now not suffering any expense, the enormous amount of expense that is in place in covering the bandwidth fees in the platform that they're using now.
You lost me a long time before that, but what you say makes sense.
I can't believe I lost you, dude.
I don't get the 4 million part.
Well,
how are you coming up with that number?
If Dude Perfect, okay, brought in 16, 17 million or whatever, you just take a percentage of that based upon the subscription base and then divide it out.
I got you.
All right. Pure estimates. I mean, obviously. But could it be? I mean, even if you cut that down in quarters and got 250,000 subscribers, okay, you're still bringing in an additional million, at least an estimated $1 million into the prize fund, and you're reducing expenses, and you have an opportunity to actually showcase what you're doing to people that may pick it up.
You know, that 68,000 does kind of surprise me, considering how many subscribers the top YouTube fishermen
Yeah.
have. 500,000, 250,000,
Yeah.
300,000, 400,000.
Yeah.
I mean, those are guys who are bass fishing primarily on that. You would think that an organization, even if you're not a
Would do that.
diehard dyed in the wool fan of competitive bass fishing, would still subscribe to Bassmaster too. So yeah, that number does kind of surprise me that it's low.
Yeah.
But I also don't hear them pushing.
No. That's what I'm saying.
Subscribe to YouTube.
But now, if they were positioning the brand and the product to YouTube, because YouTube is looking for stuff.
Well, a
like
lot of
that.
their videos, I think, live on the site on Bassmaster.
That's what I'm saying. Now you change your model, and then you know what goes away, because part of the terms is you can't run branded content in the terms and agreements for stuff like that. Now the pre-roll goes away, and I know that would make a lot of people happy. But who knows? Maybe their revenue models are at the point where they actually get more than $4 million or whatever it is, than what they would get if they became a YouTube partner. But just a thought, I'd throw it out there, because I think that's definitely a platform that the exposure and the revenue potential has been exposed by other people in the professional business and in the non-professional business.
FLW has 65,977.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. Very weird.
But what's interesting is, I think I was looking at one of the circuit breakers had like 250,000 views on it.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. All right, so a lot of business talk. Hey, we're going to talk more fishing and hopefully some business with our next guest. We're going to take a break, come back with Boyd Duckett live via Skype. Everybody stay tuned.
The most versatile fishing machine on Earth. Unparalleled resolution and clarity, with more agility, lightning speed, and brute strength. HDS Carbon takes rapid response performance and screen technology to an all-new level. Maximized power, maximized visibility. See Structure Scan 3D, new dual chirp sonar, new live network sonar, and more mapping options, all at the same time and faster than ever before. Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
My rods look different because they are different. Every rod is built by the pros and for the pros. When you pick up a white Duckett fishing rod, you're getting a cutting-edge rod, one that's truly pro-driven, with the actions you need for every bait category you fish. I put my name on it. It's my promise to build you a great rod you can count on.
Duckett Fishing, Micro Magic, Macro Magic, or White Ice.
Try them. They work.
What's up, guys? Scott Martin here, Team AFCO. Hey, if you want to have a chance to fish with me at a lake near you, well, check out the link below. This could be a lot of fun, guys. More Bassmaster Classic anglers use Lowrance than any other brand. Do you know why? Because it wins you these. 7 consecutive wins by a Lowrance angler in the Classic. That's pretty special.
I'm looking for signs before practice even starts. Crossing the bridge, I'm checking for current. Is the lake up or down? what's my watercolor? Bird activity tells me where the shad are before I ever launch my boat. Sometimes the best things hit me right in the face.
The pesky biffle bugs. There's always a hatch on your lake. Made in America by Jean LaRue Lures.
Dang bug juice, it's everywhere.
When I talk about Sunline, I think of one word: confidence.
Sunline FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
All right, we are back, Mark and Matt in studio, and we're going to be delayed just a tad.
Duckett, it's like he's got some other things on his plate besides BTL, Mark.
He was very apologetic, so
he's taking care of some business.
We have the Skype feed up. As soon as he arrives, we will go to him live via Skype. So, dude, it was pretty funny, man. During the break, Matt looks over at me and he goes, okay, I kind of get what you were talking about, and I finally got to the point after a little while of what you were talking about.
I hope I didn't sound like an idiot in the first half.
I know it's some deep stuff, and quite honestly, a lot of people may not give a rat's ass about the business side of it, but there was just something about that Bleacher Report that really intrigued me, and I really thought about the comparison about how the amount of information is being used in this game, both from a technology-produced information and also by a communication standpoint of getting information to increase the ability to catch fish, both professionally and non-professionally.
I'm with you. So we're going to save this till next week's show, kind of at the conclusion of the Masters, which is kicking off. And there's not.
Are you pulling for Tiger?
Absolutely.
I think everybody is.
This isn't. This is not going to be a golf fishing comparison.
No.
But there's certain things that I wish we did in fishing when you watch a golf tournament, and one of them, and I was talking about this before the show this morning, is, and I'm trying to think if they've done it. I know they've done some similar stuff possibly in some tournaments in memorial of an angler or someone in the industry who's passed away, but a ceremonial first cast with some legends of that tournament, like a classic. Yeah. And I was telling Mark, I said, this is a perfect opportunity. You can get your sponsors involved. You can get them out there the first morning of the classic. They don't take off until it's light anyway. Get a boat out there that's wrapped, Carhartt, Toyota, whatever you want it, Hook, and then get the dudes who won classics in the 70s or the 80s who don't fish anymore are still around. I mean, heck, Hank Parker was in the parking lot afterwards trying to teach that guy to cast for $100,000.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of guys out there who have done it and have a ceremonial first cast. Get 3 legends of the sport who aren't fishing in it at the classic. There were thousands of people at the launch. I'll attest to that at Green Pond Landing for that. And I think that would be a really cool way to kind of pay homage to the past and to kind of kick things off in the classic and remember the history, is to do a ceremonial first cast. Get them on the front deck. They're right there in the off limits.
So who would have been a good one to do the ceremonial first cast at Hartwell?
Well, I didn't get down to that far, but even a family member of a classic champ who's no longer with us, or anything like that.
And they do this at the Masters,
right? And they do that at the Masters, and that's what reminded me of it. Wasn't it Jack, Arnie, and Gary Player used to do it? Obviously, Arnie's no longer with us, but I just think that would be a cool way to kind of kick the classic off.
I like it a lot. Let's see here, what else? And folks, I do have the Skype feed up. We're looking at Boyd's office right now. So as soon as he shows up, we will go directly to Boyd live via Skype and go from there. Central Open, we haven't even talked about this at all.
No, there's 2 events actually going on. The Costa is going on Santee Cooper, which is going to be very interesting because I think you're going to see a lot of people struggle there just based on what I've read and some of the guys I've talked to. I talked to Dave down there in South Carolina, and also some 30-pound bags coming in. And then, the Central Open kicks off on the Arkansas River in a little over a week.
Next week.
And actually drove over the Arkansas River.
And what did it look like?
Muskogee. It looked very fishable. It looked really good.
No expectations for a lot of rain. They are calling for some snow flurries on Friday, but, I mean, just a smattering of flakes here and there, a little bit of sleet. But typically this time of the year, we have those monsoons, those thunderstorms that blow through that truly have a major impact on what's taking place on the navigation system, be it the Arkansas River.
So then you have the Arkansas, and then you've got Grand after that, and then like a week off, and then depending on when they reschedule the Sabine, I know a lot of the Elite Series guys who are going to fish that Arkansas River, not a lot, a good handful of them though, in the Open. You're talking 5 out of 6 weeks.
A tournament.
They're going to be fishing either an Open or an Elite Series, and then half of that Central schedule will be done, and half of the Elite Series will be done in a 6 months or 6 week span. It's crazy that you have it all strung out like this, and it's just going to go bam, 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 bam. Because right now, obviously, the thing is Takahiro has 3 months to bask in the glow of his victory on Lake Martin, but we really haven't seen how the Elite Series is going to evolve this year. You know, there's a number of guys who, Braden Polinick had a 100-place finish to kick the year off last year and ended up winning Angler of the Year. Same, Luke Clausen made the Classic. Bunch of guys have done that, so really not a great indication. We won't actually get to see that for another about month, and then the year will be half over.
That's a lot of events. I was trying to recall any time in previous years where we had the possibility of having that many events out of an 8-week period, and I couldn't find anything. I couldn't remember anything.
I think the last time when I went back and looked at it was like the last year of the Bassmaster Majors, between the Elite Series and then a major and then the Opens in between that. I think there was like a 7-week span consecutively where guys fished.
7 straight weeks?
Yep. And then in 2015, which was the last time the Elite Series and FLW, their schedules did not conflict with each other. There was like a 4-week span where it was like Elite Series, FLW, Elite Series, maybe even a 5-week span that I think Casey Ashley-ish, a couple of those guys fished that.
Yeah. Hey, we'll do this. Instant feedback's pretty active today. If anything is out there that you would like Matt and I to discuss just totally off the cuff, throw it on the instant feedback, and we can do that until Boyd shows up in his office. And then today's show obviously going to go a little long, which is fine because I had nothing else to do this afternoon. Did you have anything to do? Nothing?
Not anymore.
So today's show will go a little long. We fully expect for Boyd to be here shortly. So if there's anything on the instant feedback, throw it out there. Matt and I will give it a shot. We'll talk about it and go from there.
Sounds good. Until then, what do you want to talk about?
I don't know, man. I guess I said too much. I have never seen the look of confusion like I did for the first 15, 20 minutes of the show.
I get it. I'll have to go back and listen to it, but it's the game plan of how you incorporate other people's plans into your game plan it's a slippery slope. Because,
what's that?
Well, because I don't know if fishing is relatable really to that, because fishing is so much decision making and doing what you think is best, not relying on what is best for other people.
Hang on. Information though. That's what we're talking about here. When it really comes down to it, we're talking about information. And you have right now based upon the things that are taking place from a live perspective, you have the capability of capturing information that 4 or 5, 10 years ago, however long it was, you could not capture that information.
Right.
Insight on what successful people are doing to win tournaments or to get top 5s or top 4s or whatever. That information was not available.
Okay, so let's go back to 2011 in October when Paul Elias won that FLW tour on
the Alabama rig.
The Alabama rig.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, after that came out, there were a bunch of guys that were trying to figure out, how do you throw it? Where do you throw it? What do you do with it? How do you think that would have changed if there had been a live camera in Paul Elias's boat to where they would have been able to watch what he was doing for 6 hours a day?
Well, you just said the key point there. People would have been able to watch from an educational.
That's what I'm saying.
And
How,
from a marketing
how would
standpoint,
that have changed?
Oh, it still would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
It just would have happened quicker. It still would have happened. And when I say quicker, the explosion that took place with that due to what Paul did at that tournament, and the word got out massively. But what you had then, if that situation would have been showcased live on the internet, people would have seen details of how Paul was rigging it, how he was throwing it, how he was retrieving it.
So you're talking instant change in the industry, not a 2 or 3 year pickup of it, kind of like the chatterbait.
Yeah. I don't think it would have been quicker. I mean, because the word got out pretty quick. It really did. It wasn't like 12 months later, everybody started throwing the Alabama
Right, but as far as how
rig.
he was throwing it and what he was doing, because you're talking about in-game performance and in-game statistics. You see what I'm saying? We haven't, in the age, think of it this way, Mark. In the age of the live, Bass Live, FLW Live, the live broadcasts, have we seen something during that live where everyone goes, what the hell is that?
I think so.
And you start calling up your buddies and go, do you see what X angler is throwing? What is this? I've never seen this before. Because you have that with the Alabama rig, you had that with the chatterbait, but it wasn't live. Has there been a live moment on a bait where I was thinking back? Cannot think of one where you go, the heck is that thing on his deck?
That's a tough question. I'm sure there is, but there's nothing that just
I don't think there
is embedded in my brain.
I don't think there is.
I think there is. It's just
what
we don't really think about it. Has Van Dam's been on live, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was on
numerous
live
times?
though. Yeah, tons.
Was he live?
Van Dam's been on live. He won 3 tournaments 2 years ago.
Was he live when he was at Ross Barnett?
Throwing the jerk bait.
Now, that right there, you wouldn't think that he would be throwing a jerk bait around lily pads.
Lily pad stems. That is a good point because I do remember watching that, and I think he was live when he was doing it. He was live.
That's what I thought. That's the one that kind of is entrenched because I was like, what the hell is he doing?
Right.
Is that a good example?
Yeah, that's a good example. But I was talking about, that's a good example.
Yeah.
That'd be like having, because I know other guys, that's basically like having the playbook.
But here's the other thing, though, Matt, is we are not the players from a perspective of the field that's out there competing. All right, we may see something or we may digest it and go, okay, I'm going to go try that. But now you are opening up the playbook that showcases what your competition is doing in the playing field during the competition, where you can capture key information that you could not capture prior to live.
And I know for a fact, having room with some of these guys that have been on the tournament trail, that a lot of these guys do try to glean as much information as they can from the live replays, from Instagram accounts, from
how many
Facebook
guys
accounts.
will truly admit, I went back and I looked at some of the live stuff?
I know a lot of guys went back and wanted to see how Jordan Lee caught them in the Classic, who fished in the Classic, and went back and watched all the live stuff on the final day.
That's a smart move.
They wanted to see what Christie was fishing, what the Oklahoma guys were fishing to get in that position, and then they wanted to see, because they had tried to figure out a shallow bite, they had tried to figure out a dock bite, and here you have an archive of the guys who figured out the dock bite and the guys who figured out the shallow bite.
Mark in Minnesota said one example is the toad runner Christie was throwing last year. Said, I was wondering what that was. They kept it silent.
That's a good example. Would Chris Lane with the Whopper Plopper be another example?
Great example.
I know that was at James Watson at the 2015 Central Open on Table Rock that really busted that open. He had been winning locally with it for a couple years, but had not had anything in the boat. But that was it. But after Chris Lane finished second on Toledo Bend, was kind of one of those where a lot of people went, what the heck is this? And then they were, and if you see the Whopper Plopper bite, those fish got conditioned to it real quick, and I think that was a massive element of that had to do with the live, because in that same show, Kevin was also throwing a Whopper Plopper in the mornings.
That's impactful information.
And that's a new lure where everyone was kind of like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there have been
great
instances.
examples. Okay, so now do you see the comparison to what I was talking about, to where if the other NFL teams have this information,
right,
where it was kept in-house, it's the same thing. It was like competitors did not have that visual guidance or visual information on what their competition was doing during an Elite Series event, and now they can get that information based upon being on live or being part of the television show or whatever it is. All right, Frank in Michigan wants to know, how do you guys think they're going to catch them at Grand Lake for the Elites this time of the year, and will they catch them? I'll let you go first.
I think it'll be a full-on spawn. If you look at the weather that we have now, they haven't really come up yet at Grand. You look at the Costa results back then, the number of big fish that are getting caught. We actually have had a big show about Grand on Tuesday with Randy Blockett. I think it's as long as it clears up, as long as we don't get did you agree with that, Mark? As long as we don't get the monsoons and the lake gets totally muddy, they're either going to be blind sight fishing for them or sight fishing for them.
Yeah, the water clarity could potentially be an issue. Here's the other thing. There's a lot of stuff that's out of the water. They really pulled the lake level down. I was up there on spring break a couple weeks ago. A lot of stuff out of the water. So many things that the fish would actually spawn near is out of the water. So you're going to have some potential spawning areas that have been really, really good spawning areas in the past, that it's just not going to take place in that area because of the water level. Now, expectations are we are not supposed to get any of those monsoon spring thunderstorms where we have 3 or 4 consecutive days of torrential downpours that has a huge, huge effect on the water flow through the Neosho and the water that comes down.
I mean, if the water comes up, and it does, which it does this time of the year, I mean, Christie will win at flipping willows.
I agree with you. There's no argument there.
But if it doesn't, I think if it doesn't and it's stable conditions and it continues to warm like it is, I think you're going to have over half the field power
let me see
pulled
if you
down
agree.
on
Let me see if you agree with this. If the water level gets to a point where it is stable, it stays where it is right now, the water clarity remains close to where it is now, to where you can't really look at them. There's very few areas on the lake that you can look at them. Yes, you can blind cast at them.
Yeah, there's also a lot of areas that you can look at them down lake. There's big
Dude, I went down
swaths.
there 2 weeks ago, and it was dirty.
On the main lake, a lot of the pockets were cleaned up.
Well, I was in the back of what's the one of the dripping
spring.
I was in the back there, and it was dirty. All right, we were at somebody's house, and I just happened to walk down there toward the dock.
Is this your retirement plan?
No,
that you don't want to go into?
No, I'm not even going to go there. But I walked down there, and it was fairly dirty. So unless those areas have cleaned up, the point that I was trying to make is you're not going to have this single day where somebody pulls into an area and can see 25 pounds on the beds and are able to catch them. All right. Here's the other thing. It's going to take multiple things and multiple areas to be able to catch them 4 days. I don't know if you agree with me on this, but history has shown, and I think we got into an argument about this last time, you cannot win this event fishing the same area all 4 days.
Unless the water comes up.
And it's not, all indicators are the water is not going to come up and those fish are not going to replenish because there's nothing there to hold them. And the bait is on the move.
No, I agree. I think it'll be a good tournament. It's not going to be like the Coaster. You're going to see a lot of limits, I think.
He also wants to know, are the Oklahoma anglers going to have the HFA?
Depends on how hard and perfect the spawn is. But, I mean, Christie's still going to win that tournament. It's just a matter of how many other guys between 2 and 12.
You know what will be really cool? What will be really cool to see what the percentage on fantasy fishing, the percentage of people that select Jason Christie. You think it'll be over 50%?
Yeah.
60?
Yeah.
You going to put him on your team?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Even though you try to make a move, but you got to pick him because you know. I mean, he is the guy. Let's see here. Corey in Louisiana said, the College Series fished Toledo Bend at the beginning of the season. Why can't the Elite Series fish it?
At the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
Well, we have had a couple early tournaments on Toledo Bend.
Yeah.
Just not super early, like not March. February, March.
Maybe he's referring to why didn't they move the Sabine event to
because
Toledo Bend. There's a lot of moving parts in there.
That's a money deal, isn't
exactly. I mean, the main moving part is the city of Orange has committed an enormous amount of money to bring the event to their community to engage all of the businesses and generate tax revenue and really pump up the economy in the city of Orange. So once they make that commitment, unless the contract was ripped to shreds and both entities came to terms that, hey, look, we're going to move this up to Toledo Bend, well, then guess what? Toledo Bend's got to get out the checkbook and write the fat check. So there's a lot of moving parts in that, and it becomes a monetary issue. Dave wants that wager, by the way, whatever wager that is. I think you picking Christie. Let's see here. Mark in Minnesota wants to know, how much do you feel technology advantages really matter in tournament bass fishing now? And are the anglers on a pretty even playing field from a technology perspective now? This was the last show.
Yeah, this was. Just to answer that, and I'll just sum it up, then you can, because you've got more experience on this. Because, I mean, I came in the age of technology. Yeah. I mean, the first unit I had on that Skeeter, little ZX190 that I've had for the last 10 years was a 10-inch screen.
Yeah.
But I think as far as a level playing field on the Elite Series and FLW, I think the electronics are extremely similar as far as everybody having them, whether they have 2 or 4 units. Everybody's got them. They have access to them, whether it's a sponsor deal or discount
Can you
deal.
recall a boat off the top of your head that does not have 2 graphs on the dash now in the Elite Series? That's something.
Is Kennedy still on a piece of wood under the console? I'm asking that in all seriousness.
We'll look at that at Grand.
But
That's
here's the thing:
question.
the disparity comes in how the guys know how to use them.
Yeah,
that you'd be shocked at some of the guys on tour, and I know this for a fact, that they don't know how to use their graphs. They know how to use them to like navigate and to tell the depth, and that's seriously it. And they're guys who like catch them. But I think you look at the Garmin Panoptics, and you can go. Scott Martin just put out a crazy video there from Lanier where he's sitting there literally casting, looking ahead, and then you've got the 360 and you've got a bunch of different technologies, but he's sitting there looking at fish that are in front of the boat. Now, do you call that a disadvantage for the rest of the field? I mean, you can sit there and watch this video where he's casting out and he's like, there's my swim bait, there's the brush pile, there's 3 fish that came out of the brush pile. Oh, one of them just came at it. He's got it, and he says the fish hits it before he even sets the hook. I'll have to show that to you. No, is that?
Wow. I have no comment for that. I really don't. I refer back to Mr. Blockett's comments on the previous show. So I don't know, man. I really think that Randy Blockett had some insights, and once again, he's been doing this game for 30 plus years, and I think a lot of the guys that you would talk to that have been doing the game for a long time would probably agree with some of the stuff that he said.
I agree. And then, I mean, you got the Lowrance, you got the C-maps with the bottom hardness stuff, and there are guys at Lake Martin who are catching spotted bass, and they look at their graph, and the bottom's a different color, and it's red, so that means it's hard, so they just go over there, and they drop down and catch them, whereas other guys who don't have that features on their graphs don't know where the hard spots are in 30 foot. So every unit, so you can look at it two ways. Every unit gives you an unfair disadvantage or unfair advantage, or every different type of electronic. They're all different, so it all evens out.
Here,
in the end.
We're getting some instant feedback. Let's see here. Josh and Missouri said John Cox didn't have one in the FLW season the entire year.
I think I remember saying something. He had something to tell Death.
Rojas has one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, look who just showed up in a big poofy jacket.
Hackney has one. Is that
you're talking about double up front.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a bunch of guys with just single up front.
What about on the dash?
There's a bunch of guys with single on the dash. Kelly Jordan.
Huh.
Dean.
I mean, that's a good point. John Cox almost won Angler of the Year with no graphs.
Does Duckett have 4, or does he just have 2?
I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if we can bring him in. Boyd, you there, man?
Man, I am. How we doing?
Well, we were running out of crap to talk about, so it's a good thing that you walked in because we were struggling.
Oh, we weren't struggling. We kept it going. We did a good job.
Gotcha. Can you see me okay? Let me straighten my computer up.
Yeah, here. I'm getting ready to get the feed in. All right, you're good. We got you.
Am I good?
Yep.
Good.
All right, we have been discussing quite the topics this morning.
Can you summarize it?
Matt was a little confused. Hey, boy, do this. Tilt the laptop down just a tad.
Got it.
Much better. All right, now we got it. Now we got a good look at you. And we're talking about really two things: the amount of technology in the game of professional bass fishing today, and is it to the point now where the information is more important than the actual feat of going out and catching fish?
Well, the information that the technology provides, I guess, is what you're talking about. Because, of course, now on the Elite Series, we have no information, which is a bigger game changer than the electronics. Not to change the subject, but that's a big deal, guys. Compared, that's a change in professional bass fishing to have guys get no help, no ride around with guys, no waypoints from locals. That's a big deal. That's going to be a game changer in the Elite Series. To stay on the technology, the technology is increasing, and I've thought about that a lot. I've thought about how that has affected my career. Of course, being an old guy that started tournament fishing a million years ago, when we had very little, a lot of what we get today with this unbelievable side imaging and scan and down imaging and all of these things, they provide crisp, clear views of what you're seeing. But I don't know that it changes as much as we give it credit for. And here's what I mean by that. Way back when I was on Lake Wiley in the late 1970s fishing and traveling in those Carolina, Georgia lakes, if I saw something on my flasher that was a blob of cover, I would fish it. And today I drive over a perfect picture of a bridge with 3 Christmas trees on it, and I fish it. So did it really make me fish something? You with me? So it doesn't necessarily make you a lot better fisherman. The big advantage, especially with the side imaging, is the ability today with the new Gen 2 units and everybody. There's a lot of great electronics. I'm not pushing a single brand. I use a Humminbird brand. It's just why I read it. It's clear. It works for me. But but the ability to see fish now on my side imaging saves me time because I can catch a wider swath. And of course, the tighter your image range is, the better you can see. So I run like 60 or 70 feet, but I'm catching 120 feet, where I used to just catch a narrow cone angle and I'd have to make more passes. That's a definite advantage.
All right. The point that was made, that the discussion that Matt and I had prior to you coming on, was there was an article in Bleacher Report about the NFL, and I had no idea about this. They actually have chips, RFID chips, in players' shoulder pads and also in the footballs. And what they do is they capture all kinds of analytical information on the movement and everything that you could get from these chips. The teams previously kept all that information to themselves. In other words, it was all there for them to make adjustments or improvements or whatever based upon the data that was collected. The NFL has made a decision that now that data is going to be distributed to all 22 teams, to where one team does not have a competitive advantage over another team. In other words, everybody's going to have access to everybody's information. The comparison that I made to fishing to Matt is that's kind of like the whole influx of the live content is now you see people in a competitive environment making adjustments, making changes, having success, of which 5-10 years ago you did not have that information. That information was solely siloed just to the player. Now everybody gets to see it. So is that creating more of a level playing field, or is it making things more difficult for guys to keep specific analytical data or patterns or performance to themselves now, to where that competitive advantage goes away?
That's definitely a change, and no doubt, today in professional bass fishing, it's more like restrictor plate racing, because I've said this many times. Everybody on the Elite Series, everybody in Major League Fishing, everybody, a large percentage of the FLW tour, but certainly the qualified tours where the bunch is tighter. Everybody can find them and catch them, man. It isn't like it was in the old days. And so that sharing of information, that sharing of technology, it has made the playing field much closer than it used to be. The bass tournaments, the BASS tournaments in the 1980s, guys, you'd have 10 guys that competed for the event, and you had 100 guys that were a million miles from, you go back and look at the old results, man. Go back and look at the weights from the old days. You had about 10 or 12 guys in the running and nobody even remotely close. Today, look at the Lake Martin results. You had 75 guys in the running for 3 days. 75 guys out of 110 could have won the tournament, and maybe it's down to 12 on the final day, but it's closer and closer. And we see that tournament after tournament. Forget about the 1 or 2 guys. But it used to be there were 5 guys and everybody else were at least 2 days of fishing off. So it is much closer. We're restrictor plate racing, to put it in perspective today, compared to they used to be. And the technology added a bunch of that. And really the information network. That's what, there's so much out there. If I create a bait or a technique, the whole world has it and is using it by Tuesday.
So we talked about that on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Tuesday, you can't, and hey, in the old days, if I created a chatterbait, I could fish with it 3 seasons, like a lot of the veterans did, before anybody knew about it. Gary Klein, I think about him, and from his learnings from D. Thomas and some of those West Coast guys, Klein was flipping for 7 or 8 years when nobody else was flipping. And it wasn't shared, and, You know what I mean? And that was, now if he flips on Sunday, I can't build flipping sticks fast enough on Monday to satisfy the orders I get. So, because everybody does it.
Wow. All right. I want to read this quote from this story that was in Bleacher Report, and I just want to get your feedback on it. And this is the quote: "In sports, we want talent, dedication, and effort to be the difference maker. So how much do we want technology to decide the outcome of the games?" What do you think about that?
I agree with it. I think bass fishing today is also a lot more entertaining to watch. It's a lot better competition than it was in the old days, and I think it's really cool to have the field bunched up like it is at most of these events. And I agree with that completely, because the guys that you see on top this season and the very small handful of guys that stay close to the top most seasons, okay, it's a direct correlation to the time and energy and effort that those guys work. These young guys that come in, the time frame to learn the sport compared to because of all this information we just got through talking about, you can have these Poliniks and Jacob Wheelers of the world come in, and Jordan Lees and Matt and then on and Dustin Cannell and all these guys, and they're 90% of the way there at 22 or 23 years old, given the equal amount of raw talent that a Van Dam has. It doesn't take 10 or 12 years to get that basis. It's all just learned. Then if you'll take those guys, the difference makers, of a guy like a Wheeler that came on board, let me tell you something, that kid works his tail off, as does, all these young guys. Joe is a worker, man. Joe Lee, he's out here on the water constantly working, okay, putting in his time. I went down, with a non-classic qualifying season last year. I'm trying to tighten up and make bass fishing fit the rest of my world that's wide open. So I'm pre-practicing. I get down to the Sabine for pre-practice. Didn't really do me any good, I guess, because here I am. But I still did the work. And I see Mark Daniels, who's a phenomenal new fisherman that's come into our sport. And Daniels is out there grinding away. And I run into Wheeler while I'm down there. I'm trying to think of all the young rookies and they're doing this work that didn't always happen in the old days. And the whole field is doing that. And the guys that are working the hardest are getting the greatest results, which is exactly what your report said.
Okay, how much time do you have? Because I want to make sure that we don't go over if you have to be somewhere, because we have several other things to talk about.
No, I'm good. I apologize for being late. I've got this new Duckett Point, which is a resort community that I'm building. It's a big project, and I got up on a deal out there, and I want to apologize to the viewers for that.
No, it's all good. All right, we had Randy Blocken on the show on Tuesday, and Randy has been very, very vocal about, and he actually talked about it on the show, about putting limitations on the amount of equipment on guys' boats that are fishing professionally in fishing tournaments. In other words, I think he has mentioned that he wants to create a very, very level playing field, of which that's kind of what you guys do in Major League Fishing. Everybody's on the same path.
Hey, yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that? Obviously being a huge part of Major League Fishing, but is that something that you think that we could ever see on the FLW Tour and the Elite Series?
There are several ways to look at that, and I respect what Randy's saying there. He's trying to keep it pure, but we did all of that at Major League Fishing. If you take all the information and all the practice away, you get nothing but one man's ability to find fish quicker than the next, which is our sport. Okay, and it's pure, and you see it, you've watched it. It's also the most informative thing you could ever watch, because you're watching us struggle and undo the puzzle. The hard part of bass fishing is not catch them. Anybody watching that's a tournament angler knows that's the case. If I'm on a group of fish and I put you in my boat, you're going to be a superstar. It's all about finding them winning fish in the shortest period of time. That's what we do. We're professional practicers, and we're quicker at unlocking the key. That's what puts fish in our boat. The technology advancement is intimidating if you don't stay on the cutting edge of that technology. What it does is it makes you make decisions on a regular basis about what to add to your arsenal and what not to add. So it's not simple like it used to be. But I believe, like all sports, technology plays a role in the change. It's changed the NFL. It's certainly changed, NASCAR. It has changed golf, and it's part of it. We also have manufacturers that thrive and allow our industry to exist, allow us to have professional bass fishing. And when they bring products to the forefront, we need to expose those products for their value. Is it the real deal? Is it not the real deal? I think that system is just all part of it. But believe me, it's just like golf. Okay, you can't buy a game. There's a lot of technology out there, but if you think you can buy a game, I own a boat dealership here, and I sell a lot of $85,000, $90,000 fully rigged, 21 TRXs, and those guys don't go out and necessarily win on Saturday. Okay, so yes, the technology is part of it, but you've got to learn how to use it.
I think MLF also, when we're kind of comparing as far as having whatever the heck you want, 4 units, all of your stuff, and then you go to the MLF and everybody's got the same stuff. We've seen a lot of the guys who excel in their personal rigs. We'll take Brent Ehrler, for example, and then look at what he's gone and done over an MLF out of a different boat with the same technology. He still kicks everyone's ass doing what he does on the FLW Tour and the Elite Series, and he does it out of the smaller boat with whatever the electronics he's not used to and not knowing where he's going. He still does that on Major League Fishing. I mean, I think that's proof, at that higher level, that the guys who are good with all of that stuff, they're not good because of that stuff. They're better because of that stuff, but they're still good at it regardless of what you give them. I think that's a good example, and MLF kind of showed that, as with like what Kevin does. Yeah. I mean, look at some of the stuff he's been able to find at Major League Fishing and some of the schools and the way he's been able to catch them with equipment that has leveled everyone else. He's not finding those fish strictly because of his equipment on the Elite Series for the past 15 years has been top notch. He's doing it because of what's between his ears and the experience and the time on the water he has.
Yep. Yeah, I guarantee if you made a basketball 5/8 of an inch smaller, LeBron James would still dominate. Okay? If you made a golf ball a hair larger, those top 5 PGA players would still dominate. And you're exactly right. So, the technology isn't necessarily taking guys to, you still have to have talent. You have to make good on the water decisions. I think today, certainly in my career, I recognize this, but I think that it is so much more equal because of technology that it has less to do with catching fish or with pure fishing as it does decisions. It's more like water chess. I like to think of it as playing water chess against the group. Because everybody can find them and catch them, you have to make better decisions once you get your base, your baseline of talent. You got to have that minimum baseline of talent. But tournament fishing is about making really good decisions, man, and that's the game changer. And these guys are very good at what they do.
And as far as equipment, is this not the exact same conversation that goes on across all divisions of sports? You hear him talk about the metal in the golf club and the golf ball, and are they out driving the courses now? And is it no fun to watch these tournaments because everything gets turned into a par 4? You hear about it talked about in the NASCAR with all the different the restrictor plates and all the different wedges and stuff that they put in there.
Yeah.
It's the exact same, except we're just relating it to fish and the technology on the fishing side. I mean, this exact conversation goes on across all level playing fields of sport.
Yeah, but Boyd, the difference being with Matt making that statement is in this game, the only real restrictions on equipment is the length of a rod, the maximum horsepower, and that's about it.
Yep.
There's not a limitation on how many rods you can have, how many reels, how much tackle, what kind of tackle.
Right. Well, I was talking about the
weighs.
more so the advancement of the.
Yeah, but still, every single one of those.
No, I know
those
there are
games,
limitations.
There is a restriction on what you can and can't use.
Caddies are damn glad they don't have to carry around 74 of Mickelson's wedges every round.
All right. I mean, this argument is going to, not argument, but this discussion could go on forever, especially as technology continues to advance and get better and better.
I mean, is it not even the same in the music industry as far as that? The technology advance in the music industry and stuff? I mean, can you not even make those parallels, Boyd?
Absolutely, man. I mean, what happened in the old days in the music industry, the talent you had to have with your musicians, the artists, the opportunity to, with digital recording, what you can do with a vocalist in a studio is phenomenal. Where you used to have to actually perform that, a full song, or at least case scenario to splits and cuts. When we were using tape back in the old days, you had to be able to sing to the, at least through the verse line so that we had a cut point. Today, I can go in a studio and make either one of you sound phenomenal digitally.
Mark.
I mean, so the technology's just changed completely. And I don't even need musicians. I can do all that with equipment now, drum machine, electronic synthesizers, and it's crazy. It's changed.
All right,
we're in a different world, man. Look at the Facebook lawsuit. Who'd ever thought that social media could get in a position to sway this country politically, but some of that is on trial, on public trial currently.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. A number of topics that we want to get to on the instant feedback, but a couple of people did ask, based upon a discussion that Matt and I had about the Classic and the coverage of the Classic. What is your opinion? Do you think the Classic, because of the additional information now that is out there because of Bass Live and all the information that is showcased during the Classic, should the Classic television show be produced as a product of which there is no, or it's completely unknown who the winner is, rather than producing a Classic show that is really centered around knowing what the outcome is and showcasing what that outcome is? Do you see the difference there, Boyd?
You're talking about they produce the show in such a way so that the television audience, we pretend like they don't know.
Right. And the players that are in the game actually act like they have no idea. Like the commentators and everybody else, they kind of act like, oh, we have no idea. Oh, this guy he might be able to pull it out
on the final day. Zone is like, it's only 8 a.m, but I just got a sneaking feeling Christie's headed towards a 4-fish, 8-pound, 11-ounce limit today.
Would it be better? And because coverage has changed, because of all the information that's out there, and I made the point, we got an enormous amount of feedback from fans that we asked to get their opinion, and they were split about 50-50. But the premise of what I'm saying is, if you're a fishing fan, not somebody that fishes, but if you are a fishing fan, you probably know that Jordan Lee won the Bassmaster Classic. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree with that, and that's a good the consideration. I probably lean to agree with you. Of course, it's new ground to cover,
right.
and so you now are in a new frontier. There's also a financial investment needed on Bass's behalf to try to create that format, film it a different way. So there's those economic challenges for the company to decide based on revenue and sponsorship income. The other side of the fence is that they produce this show and it's on ESPN and likely hits, or ESPN2, and likely hits a demographic where at least half or more of that audience does not know the answer, okay? And so the demographic that show is airing to wants to see, it's fun and exciting because it's a real-time event for them because they don't know the results. So that's enough. I'm just saying there's a lot to bounce off of. Not disagreeing with you. Certainly for our specific demographic, those that follow bass fishing, it's hard to watch it because you know all the results, and it seems artificial because it is, and we all know the results. And it would be fun to see a recap show.
Oh, how about that, Matthew?
That would be fun, where you covered it more from an analyst position as to what happened and why it happened. Don't hide the results.
Well, they have like a winning patterns that they do like 3 times a year.
Yeah, but that's after. This is the show that showcases what just took place.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I get it, Boyd. They have a very, very short window to get this done in. And what they do, they've done a fabulous job at putting together in the video and the coverage and everything they do. My biggest point is that the dynamic of the way the game is covered has changed. So what you're doing today is the same thing that you did 15 years ago.
Yeah, the format.
Right. It hasn't changed.
I'm with you. And like I say, you have some economic choices because when you create something new, then that's an expensive endeavor, and so that has to be financially covered through through your income stream, sponsorship, and you also may not. Here would be Bass's best argument on the other side. They also want to produce a product for the non-bass fishing enthusiast that can enjoy it as if it's a competition. And the show that they produce offers that. It just doesn't offer it to the current fan base that knows the results. You follow me?
Yeah.
Because that other half of that ESPN2 audience, they don't know it. They don't know the results, so they wouldn't enjoy a recap. You see, you kind of got to decide which audience you're doing it for. But I think it would be cool to. I really like the idea of having an analytical recap of the Classic with that same high quality production that you see that they do at the Classic every year. It's a phenomenal product. I think it'd be awesome to see a 2-hour show that was a recap and an analysis recap, that showing the decisions that Jordan made, showing the decisions Christie made, and everybody that was kind of in it and not in it. That'd be a fun show. I'd love to see that.
I agree. All right, Carl in Ohio wants to know, have you seen or heard of anything from a seminar standpoint that actually teaches weekend guys how to use electronics?
There are some seminars that are offered that the electronics manufacturers do, and nationally. And normally that's done. You'll have to look and see what the menu is for some of these outdoor shows. But oftentimes, Lowrance, Humminbird, Raymarine, they will have technicians that are, brilliant at use of their products, and they'll offer seminars at these outdoor shows. I know we have an open house every year at Duckett Marine, and we bring in those people, and we give in-depth, real deal seminars on how to use electronics, teach people settings that they're not used to, and and try to solve the problems that they've had. So there's a lot of that out there. You just need to look into either your local marine dealerships if they're big enough to have big open house days like we do, or your outdoor shows in your program. But a lot of that's out there. Or contact your manufacturer.
Yeah.
Send an email to your manufacturer and say when where are you guys going to have a seminar? I want to go.
I know there's a lot of tutorial videos out on YouTube and some other things, even on the manufacturer's website.
Mm-hmm.
But to get that hands-on experience, I'm sure that would be a lot better for a lot of people out there that just aren't familiar with what's going down. All right, Frank in Michigan wants to know, with the cancellation of the Sabine and only one tournament in the books, have you been able to do any fishing?
You got to be careful this time of year that you don't, and especially me, with all the things that I have going. It is dead. It's in the heart of the season, and we're fixing to hit a stretch, back to back with Oklahoma and Kentucky Lake, and I have been cognizant of that and trying to put some time on the water so that my body and my skill set is sort of in the middle of the season, and it's not like the first event of the season when I get there. Yep, it's important, man. Nothing replaces time on the water, buddy, for having your natural intuition on how to make decisions.
All right, Gary Klein is actually watching today, and he posted something on the instant feedback, and he's right. I didn't think about this. He says there are restrictions on lures and rigs that the anglers can use. When in question, they must get approved by the tournament director. So if anybody knows, Gary would know.
Yeah, because Gary's our rules expert at Major League Fishing as well, and as he has written most of that. But and he's right. Like the Alabama rig is a bait that we can't use at bass. Any multi-hook, rod restrictions, which has recently been raised to 9 foot. And we haven't seen a big change in that, although there's a few rods out there. So there are some restrictions. That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. TJ in North Carolina wants to know, have you ever completed the Guntersville Slam in a day? A spot, a largemouth, and a smallmouth.
Jordan just did that.
Yes, I have. We have a good population of smallmouth that go unnoticed at Lake Guntersville because it's such a phenomenal largemouth bass fishery. But they're not hard to catch, and there's lots of them. You stop anywhere there's rock on Lake Guntersville, you can catch a smallmouth. So you do catch more of them, especially in the summer when I'm offshore fishing. And several times I've caught all 3 species.
Have you ever weighed in a 5-fish smallmouth limit?
No. You can't.
Are you losing if you bring 5 smallmouth to the scales at Guntersville?
No, because you can't make them weigh 28 pounds.
Yeah, that's kind of like the old 5-fish spotted bass limit at Sam Rayburn.
Yeah.
I've done that before, and it doesn't bode well.
Yeah. All right. Andy in Indiana wants to know, can you talk about what the heck those devices are that sit right in front of the power poles on the MLF boats? Do you know what he's talking about?
Oh yeah, That's our satellite transceiver. Well, we have several technologies that we use at Major League Fishing. We actually have a system that we can use cellular technology, and what it is, as opposed to bouncing your individual iPads or phones out to cell, we build our own network, and we have a network base there where the ramp is, and then all of the boats tie into that system, and that helps us go places and have full service if we're transmitting our information via cell. We also have satellite technology. If you've seen the satellite sitting back there at the back of the boat, and if we have no cell, we have had events like this, we'll actually go to satellite where we're transmitting via satellite. Both technologies work well. And then obviously if we have great cell coverage at Lanier north of Atlanta, we can just go to straight cell and bounce off the towers.
I mean, do you have to have like a specific meeting with Iconelli on stuff he can and cannot kick in the boat for Major League Fishing events?
Yes, we have, because those satellites off the back of the boat, big fine coming from BT there, buddy.
Wow. All right. Andy in Indiana also wants to know, why did you use Z19s for the World Championship and back to the Z18s for normal events?
The Z19 is an upgrade. It's got some more room in it. It's a bigger boat, and that's a boat that Nitro wanted to promote in the World Championship. The reason we use Z18s in the regular Cup events and select events is because that's a boat that's a high seller. It's important to Nitro that they see professional bass fishing done, tournaments won, competition at the highest level done in a very affordable Z18. That's a boat that I sell rigged at my dealership. in the mid to upper 30s. Almost anybody can afford it, and you can go win bass tournaments in it. So that they're there for a reason, and that's why they're there.
All right, Corey in Louisiana wants to know, what do you think the biggest factors on Grand Lake are going to be?
Wow, that's a great question, because I've fished Grand a lot in the fall, fishing the Fish and Chips events.
Yeah.
I've fished there summer all the times that Bass has been there, but I only remember being there once. I think it was in 2007. That was maybe like first week of May from memory. I hadn't even looked to see when that was. Do you remember when we were there?
No.
I think it was May.
I think it was May, sometime in May. So this is the earliest we've been there. Number one, last week of April, and so it's a different dynamic. I think that. The guy that quickest figures out where the lake is in transition from spawn to post-spawn, I think that's going to be the key at Grand. And I don't know a lot about Grand in the spring now, and then wintertime, obviously all the classics that have been there, I fished the wintertime stuff. So it'll be new to a lot of us. I don't know how to fish Grand in April, and I think the key is going to be guys figuring out if the majority of the females have already spawned, and do we catch it in a post-spawn pattern, and how to uncover that, or are there still enough pre-spawn fish that you can focus on that? And those are different places.
All right. Frank in Michigan wants to know, do you have any prototype stuff that you're working on?
I do have some prototype stuff, and I came rushing in from a meeting, and I didn't bring it with me. In the BD baits, we got some really cool stuff that we're working on. The only thing that I haven't shown you, I've got a small frog that I can show you. It's laying on my desk. I can put my glasses on so I can see if it's got centered up. But basically that's a small version of our standard BD baits frog, and it's that same super soft material that we make the BD bait frogs out of. Got a super sharp katana hook in it. But what's so cool about all the frogs are, I can't say you hook 100% because that's impossible, but you've got the highest hookup rate on these frogs of anything you've ever thrown. It's so soft it collapses, and you just hook them all. Why every frog manufacturer hasn't made one of those yet is beyond me. Wow. It's just beyond me. And they probably will, because you hook them all. Isn't that the hard part, guys? I mean, you throw a frog, afternoon, you throw a frog for 2 bites that are tournament game changers, or 3, and you catch 1 out of 3. With those hard frogs.
I said Jeffries and I are still struggling on the getting a bite part. Boy, you're taking for granted. I mean, you're the classic champ and all that. We're just over here going, how do you get a bite?
Yeah, good point.
Trying to get a bite. Yeah, I hear you.
Good point. All right, Josh in Missouri wants to know your thoughts on Vexus.
My thoughts on Vexus.
That's a good question.
What I expect from Vexus, and the way that I have it measured up, and this is just an opinion because I don't really have any inside information to tell you what their long-term business plan is. I haven't talked to anybody over there to know any of this, but I think what you have a lot of heritage from the old Ranger team. You have a desire, because of those that are involved in management and ownership, to build a super high quality boat. They're not price point conscious, so I expect to see, certainly when we get into the fiberglass, a high quality boat at a very high price point, designed for a small slice of the demographic. And that's what I expect. I expect it'll be a super nice boat. I think they have plenty of ability, but that management team and that ownership team is a high level, expensive. Not for everybody, but when you buy one, you got a lot to be proud of. I think that's where it is, and so that's how I got them assessed. Don't see them ever having a large portion of the market, because the boat industry is, in my opinion, those companies that are focusing on building boats that are affordable for everybody is a better direction for bass fishing. The boat industry outgrew bass fishing. A lot of guys love to bass fish. They'd love to be able to compete, tournament fish. But man, everybody ain't got 90 grand, man, to be able to go compete on weekends. And just like the push that Nitro's making with us being in Z18s, you can win a bass tournament in a $35,000 boat and beat those guys in the $90,000 Vexus possibly. I mean, so it's you got to decide what you want to do. But that's where I see them, and I think that they'll have a quality product because that's what that team intends to build.
Hey, have you ever been to the Masters?
I have.
When was that? When's the most recent trip?
It was in the 1980s. It's been a long time ago.
Really?
In the late 80s, yep.
It's seen like Jack and Arnie.
Yeah, how cool was that?
They were all playing.
Awesome. I mean, it's really a neat deal. And I haven't been to a ton of live golf events, even though I really enjoy playing and I like the sport. But one of the things that I remember standing out was, it's crowded and it's hard to see things. It also made me really understand why golf is a televised sport, because when you're there, unless you sit at one hole and it doesn't feel the same, doesn't feel like it does when you watch it. The other option is to walk around, which is what we did, and tried to catch as much, and I wanted to see as many of those holes and all that history of Augusta. But when you do that, you don't see much.
What was your go-to phrase that you yelled as soon as Jack made impact? Obviously you were probably there with some friends. Did you remember any of the stuff you yelled at, in that quiet 5 seconds immediately after impact?
Right after impact, me and the group I was with, we went, "Don't shank it!" Just to see if on the next tee box, and most of those pros would kind of look over at you like, "Don't bring that! Come on, man!" Hey, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of having a marshal in the boat with me when you finally hook that big fish and you're focused and and he goes, "Oh man, please stay on, and you're thinking, "Come on, dude, don't get that in my head. Don't let him get off. Oh my God, please stay on." That's like the kiss of death, man. That 7-pounder's coming off when your marshal starts going, "Oh my God, please stay on."
Wow.
Same deal. It's like getting the shanks.
Yeah, I get those quite often. All right, Jake in Maryland has a complicated question, but give him some advice here, Boyd. It says, ask Mr. Duckett if he has any advice for somebody looking to start a business and succeed in the outdoor industry.
Wow, that's a fairly broad question.
Yeah,
but the answer would be like it is in any industry. You can't go into a business or a product line because you like it. Those are not business reasons to get into it. You are successful when you offer a service or a product that's needed and it's in a growth market. Then you have a chance of having reasonable competition. Obviously, if you can be innovative and bring a new product to the market, whether you're in computers, an industrial component part, or the fishing industry, those principles don't change. So just because you like lures won't make you successful in the lure business, and it's extremely competitive. If you're innovative and you have a new product and you do the research and you prove that there's market share available and a customer base that'll generate revenue numbers, and make sure that you take your time when you create your pro forma of my total revenue that's likely that I can achieve, my total expenses that I'll incur. That's the way to make your business decision. Don't be emotional about the fact that you want to be in the outdoor business. But the outdoor business is like any business. If you're innovative and you bring a better set of boots to the market, they're going to sell. If you can bring better outdoor clothing and rainwear, hey, look, we've had great outdoor clothing and rainwear for a long time. And one of the more recent, very successful companies that came into that industry is Hook. And they produced products that were, in an industry that was crowded, and they were very successful. So it's not that you can't do it, you just have to find a way to get into that industry.
All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry, boy.
So I'll just make good business decisions, not emotional decisions.
Good advice. Great advice. All right. A lot of rumors, a lot of talk, a lot of discussion. Several posts on social media that the Classic is going to be going to Tennessee out of Knoxville. What are your thoughts on that?
I've heard about some of that. And if they went out of Knoxville, then, we're likely to see Cherokee or Douglas, I would say. And, it's for the time of year that we fish, both of those lakes fish really well in the wintertime. And, if we have it first week of March or something, that's kind of been more standard here lately, I think it'd be a great Classic. Hey, Cherokee, guys, the first event of the year last year, it was a great event. I would say really good event. Now, the lake is not big, and if we went back again, it would fish much smaller because the guys watched how it went down. We see that happen a lot. But the Classic's just 50 guys or 52 or whatever it is. I know Bass has reduced that number a little bit, back closer to 50. And it's a great venue if it happened to be Cherokee. I'm just throwing that out there. So I think it'd be a good tournament.
I got to hand it to Bass. They actually said, hey, we're about to announce where the Classic is going to be. But before we do, where would you guys like to see it? Give us where you'd... And if you just want to, there's a lot. There's hundreds.
Yeah.
Just scroll through some of those comments, folks. They're fantastic. My favorite was the Ohio River out of Cincinnati.
Oh my gosh! Another Pittsburgh.
There were some awesome suggestions.
Was California mentioned?
A ton. It's real interesting if you just look at that. You get a pulse of, now obviously people who comment are going to be more involved in the sport and follow it than the average fan, but. It's just you kind of get a pulse as to what people want to see and where they want to see it go. A lot of Lake of the Ozarks, a lot of West Coast, a lot of people want to see a smallmouth Classic, which would require a change in the time of the year, but they're like, hey, we've done all this, why can't we have a smallmouth Classic? So it was real interesting, and they did that a couple days ago. So if you get a chance, scroll down their news feed and find that. There were like 400 or 500 by the last time I checked.
I'm a big fan of, everybody has an opinion about how to run the Classic, but I would like to run our season and end it with the Classic. I always felt like that, that it's time for that. I think we should start early. We should use more of the year, spread the season out some so that we don't have these 2 and 3 week treks. And, it'd be a little easier on the guys. But run our whole season and have our Classic. If we had our Classic in October or November, either one of those 2 months, we have the whole nation available to us. You have some great fall fishing. An October Classic anywhere in the north is going to be off the chain good. A November tournament anywhere in the south is going to be phenomenal. And it's a completely different style of fishing. It's not whoever the best wintertime fisherman is. I like the idea of running the season and having a Classic in the fall. It's just my opinion. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it concludes the year more correctly and all those things.
Hey,
coming from a guy who's won one in the spring.
Absolutely. Hey, Dave wants to know if Eli's left any crappie in Guntersville.
When I moved up here 4 years ago, and I'm not a lifetime great crappie fisherman, so it's been quite a challenge. And Guntersville has phenomenal crappie in it, and I struggled the first couple of years figuring out because they're so different than bass. So it's like this inside mission, and I'm not the only one now. Me and Chris Lane go and chase them, and Swindle goes and chases a bunch of us up here. That's our pastime fish is crappie fishing. So, but we've kind of the last couple of years got them dialed in. My mother loves to come a couple times a year. My brother will come over from North Carolina. We just did it about 2 weeks ago. Me and Errol and Mom are out there chasing crappie, and so it's a really become a big part of us. But yeah, me and Eli are crushing them pretty regular.
All right, Frank in Michigan wants to know: do you have any memories of Ghido Hebden?
Yes, I do have some memories of Ghido Hebden. Most of them are from a fan perspective. He didn't fish bass the same time I did. I fished against him in some of the Jerry Ryan's Fisherman Bass Circuit events back then, but mostly as a fan, and just the everything that I know about him and heard about him, from guys and what little bit I was around him. just a class guy, man. Not a hothead, always professional. Was one of the early pros that tried to elevate bass fishing by being aware of what's important other than his just personally, trying to being a great promoter of the sport, those kind of things. So, all of these legends that worked hard for our sport and not just for themselves, they're the reason we exist today. They carried the water, for us. And so I have a lot of respect for that long class of veterans that helped make our sport available to us. And that's part of my drive. Gary Klein and I have worked for years together on this Major League Fishing, and I know Gary and I are both driven, as are, other guys on our board and stockholders. And we're, and it's kind of our opportunity to try to give back to the sport some and throw a little pavement out there for the new guys coming. That's what drives us to do it. And that's what guys like Ghido did back in his day. And so you can't help but appreciate that.
All right. Good stuff, man. Long show, marathon show, but I'm glad we waited around and got to talk to you, Boyd. Is there anything else from I know we touched on the lure aspect. Is there anything in development that you can talk about from a Major League Fishing standpoint or from a Duckett fishing standpoint?
Major League Fishing, we're always working harder to make changes to the show and to the format, and trying to find a way to bring more television to our audience. We have, that's what we get, our emails about how can you do more and how can you do more. And of course, now we're on 12 months out of the year at Major League Fishing on multiple networks. Discovery, CBS Network, obviously the Outdoor Channel, our great partner. Sportsman. World Fishing Network. I mean, you can catch us a whole lot of places. So still continuing to try to expand that. And then at Duckett Fishing, we're working on some new stuff. You'll see us launch at ICAST, our new 400 series line of reels. I hope to have all of our product testing done. That's one of the things that's real important to me, is to get everything debugged, and so when we bring it to market, it's a perfect reel. But I've got something very special there. I've shown both of you guys before that braking system that's in that reel, and it's just an anti-backlash system that all of us need, including me and most of the guys I fish with, But, we'll be real excited to see that launch at ICAST. And we got a couple of new lines of rods you'll see, too. So a lot of stuff going on here at Duckett Fishing.
All right, last thing. We've had you on numerous times. I do not recall the Snoopy painting right behind you, over your left shoulder. What is that?
Yeah, you don't. Well, for my daughter Annabelle, who's 17 now, she got me that for Christmas. And, what do you buy a dad that kind of has everything anyway? And when I was a kid, I used to draw that. I don't know why. I don't know. It's just one of the early things I learned to draw. And I could draw it, by the way, as good as Schultz. Okay, could.
Really?
I could draw the doghouse with Snoopy on top of it. And so that was one of the few things, because I'm not an artist, but I could draw it pretty decent. So she remembered that, and trying to buy me something that was special. That's what she bought me for Christmas. So that's why it's hanging there.
Very cool.
I'm going to have to just draw Jeffries a Nike symbol for his for his next Christmas. He could just hang that on the wall. That's meaningful to Jeffries.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go, man.
Yeah, we need to get some Duckett gear with the swoosh on it, Boyd. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, that sounds like a great partner for me.
I would think it would be a cool deal. I'm all about it. All right, man. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Grand Lake coming up here in 2 weeks, and should be a great event. Should be a ton of fish caught. And, hey, you're welcome to come on anytime. You just let us know. And the other thing, too, several comments on the instant feedback. They really, really appreciate your business savviness and really educating the fans from a business perspective. So they pass along their best wishes to you, and good luck to you, man.
Man, I sure do appreciate that. I mean, obviously, we all love bass fishing with our passion to do it, but all of these companies we talk about all have a purpose why they do things, and it's business generated. So it's fun to blend that.
All right, very cool. I will see you in 2 weeks, man.
See you in 2 weeks. Let's have a great tournament at Grand.
All right, sounds great.
All
right, take care. There you have it. Boyd Duckett, great stuff. And a marathon show today, my friend.
I'm glad I had the energy drink.
What, you're that wore out already? You had to think too much on this one.
It was. I got a mental exercise for the first 30 minutes.
Oh, I didn't even get to finish my breakfast bar this morning.
Your what?
My breakfast bar. Right here.
Oh,
Remember,
you're back to eating weird crap, aren't you?
No, this is what I eat every morning.
It's better than 9 McDonald's patties, no bun. That was a disgusting year.
That was years.
That was
years
gross.
ago.
You would just get a stack of patties and then eat it like an apple.
Years ago.
Oh, it was repulsive.
Years ago. All right, here's a scoop on next week, folks. No show on Tuesday. I will be on the water, actually, at Lake Tenkiller.
Going out in the boat?
Fishing the old man's tournament on Tuesday, so we'll give a report on that. Then on Wednesday...
You're not going to have 8 pounds.
Oh, jeez, man. He's just issuing a throwdown
It's muddy water.
There.
It's going to be windy. It's going to be after a cold front.
We will see.
You haven't been on the lake.
I'll take the over on that, and I owe you 3 lunches.
I'm just saying,
already.
I don't even know why you're going.
Now you sound like me.
That's what I'm saying. Every time I go fishing, and how does it feel to be returned now?
Yeah, now you sound like me.
You ain't going to learn anything.
So anyway.
How much gas money does that cost to get to the lake?
Tuesday, I will be on Lake Tenkiller. Wednesday, we leave for our trip, going to the state of Mississippi, and there will be information about our live stream during our trip, of which you guys are going to be...
I'm skeptical about this, Mark.
Why is that?
I'm just skeptical about it.
Sketchy or skeptical?
I don't know. I'm going to fire that thing up when you're chewing my ass out, because I know it's going to happen. You're not going to know it, and everyone's going to say, it's amazing he's as adorable as he is after what he puts up with.
So we're gonna document our trip to Mississippi. We are going to shoot 3 days worth of video on our next 20 feet deep documentary. And that's how we're going to do the show. It might be the longest BTL in history, even longer than this one.
Well, this was 1 hour and 53 minutes, so...
Quite the length, all right? But thanks once again to Mr. Boyd Duckett and Ike Live on Sunday night. Need to throw that out there. I think he's going to have Jordan Lee on.
Do you see their Instagram post? It's
No.
like all 4 of these people are named Jordan Lee. Which one do you think will be on Ike Live? And there's like a hot chick, an ex-convict.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
They get creative, so check out Ike
Jordan
Live
Lee.
on Sunday night. Then Matt and I will be back on BTL on Wednesday during our trip. So I'll have all the information posted, and then Matt will do the social media on that, let everybody know what's going on. So everybody be safe. Enjoy the weekend. Stay warm. The snow is coming. Matthew, good luck to you this weekend.
Good luck to you too, Mark.
At Texoma. I hope you absolutely just wheelhouse them. All right?
I don't know what wheelhousing involves.
You've never heard that term, wheelhouse.
I hope you catch him too.
All right, man. Back on Wednesday. Everybody be safe. We'll talk to you then.